Norman Williamson made a name for himself 30 years ago, an outstanding rider, the Gold Cup, the Champion Hurdle and much more. Nowadays at his Oak Tree Farm in County Meath, he's a kingpin amongst pinhookers. And last year he hit the jackpot. Native Trail, the champion 2-year-old of Europe.
Native Trail, 4 in a row with William Buick wins.
Norman, Native Trail is a wonderful story and you were in the thick of it. In 6 months you taught him the rudiments. Tell us about him.
Well, I taught him. It's probably a little bit easier when they're that good. You know, from day one, Robert, when I saw him as a yearling sold by Kildara in Newmarket, huge, big individual, but as strong as he was, big action, everything was big about him. But somewhere in there he had a huge amount of quality, real quality head, good backside for speed, and I think, you know, looking back at it, he was either going to be a slow hunter or a very good racehorse, you know. But he took everything great, and I've said already, around Christmas time I thought he was falling apart just a little. He was gone a bit backward looking and, you know, maybe a bit narrow looking, which he wasn't. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks after Christmas and coming into the spring, he started to transform again, and then he held everything, you know, held his shape and his body and took his work really well, I suppose. You know, and again, when he ended up that good, maybe he's taking his work that well because he's not doing as much as the others. Now we only canter in a circle here. We take him away once a week to work. But when he'd come back from his day's work, when he'd be cantering the next day, he'd start bucking. You know, while cantering, he'd be bucking around the place. So he found most things easy.
Did you feel you had the goods going there? You knew that he could be special.
I was afraid to do too much, and I've said this. It's very important that for all the breeze up vendors, it's gone so professional. We're trying to sell good horses, not fast breeze up horses to break clocks. We want him to go on, and especially him. He was a horse who had to train on. You had to, even though he won 6 weeks after he was sold, he had to train on to be what looked like a 7 furlong horse. If you tried to make him into a 1.5 furlong horse, you were going to break him. So I took my time, but about 2 or 3 weeks before the sale, I thought, listen, this fella needs a slap on the shoulder because he's just doodling around all winter. And just one day we had him away, and I went 1.5 furlong, and I just went go on, and absolutely, I just thought, my God, this thing, you never felt like he was going fast, but you got from A to B very quick. Like if you were watching the tree there, you got to that tree very quick. And then I thought, this is covering some ground, and my wife Janet was there, and she said, Jesus, he's fast. But he never looks fast, and that's probably what makes him a very good horse. And if you listen to people like Aidan O'Brien talking about good horses, real good ones, like him, there's certain things about him. They don't get tired, you know, and things like that.
For you, though, it's a balancing act. I mean, it must be easy to overcook the egg. You've got the goods, you want him to do a good time, but you've got to leave something as well, don't you?
You've got to leave something, and it's important. It's important that they train on, and most buyers of breeze-up horses nowadays listen to the vendors. It's very easy probably to overcook the egg, but if you overcook the egg, you won't end up with anything, you know. And at the end of the day, the breeze-ups are doing a fantastic job in producing good racehorses. It's proven, especially the last few years, tremendous racehorses come from it. And I think in general, the vendors are doing a fantastic job.
You turned 67,000 into 210. It was a very, very good bit of marketing, and you had the goods. How did you feel at the Tattersalls Craven Breeze Up?
Well, the Craven has been lucky for me for the last 15 years. I've been doing this in maybe 17 years, and the Craven has been a lucky sale for us. So we tend to take 1 or 2 of our best colts there. Now, I don't have big numbers. I usually have only 10 or 12 horses, but I take a couple of good colts there every year. And this fella, you know, Native Trail went there and did his breeze, and I just thought, again, what I was saying earlier, I thought he was going from A to B very quick, even though he was galloping a little high and maybe looked a little green to people and changed his legs. But straight after the breeze, you realise whether you've done well or done bad, because people start coming to see him, and thankfully a lot of people liked him. Richard Brown, for instance, he's a good buyer of breeze-ups. He really liked him, he underbred him. David Loader was there to buy him with Anthony Stroud. Of course, in his day, I know he's a young man, but he was a fantastic trainer of 2-year-olds. So he listens. He really sits up and takes note. If you said, listen, he needs a bit of ease in the ground, he needs this, he needs that, I was happy. So they were the two people, Anthony Stroud, David Loader and Richard Brown were people that really liked him.
He wins his maiden by 4 lengths, he wins the Superlative Stakes, he comes to the Curragh and he beats Point Lonsdale. He's very, very special. What were your emotions at the Curragh? I mean, it was a wonderful performance.
Yeah, it was, because, you know, Point Lonsdale had been talked up as this superstar, and at the time of the year he did look very, very good, but I must say when Native Trail got into gear, he made him look ordinary. I was worried till the furlong and a half pole, but I saw once he changed stride and started the motor, you know, he races like a horse behind the bridle and a bit green all the time, and once he gets going, he's different gear when he hits the line.
Then came the Dewhurst Stakes. I mean, he rubber stamps what we saw at the Curragh, 2 mighty, mighty wins.
Yeah, the Dewhurst, it's interesting you should mention it, because Mick Canaan, who I learned my trade with or from when I was a child, who obviously was probably the greatest rider we'd ever seen, asked me that morning of the Dewhurst, what do you think of the horse today? And I said to him, because he knew exactly, or he would know way better than me, I said, if he comes into the dip, you know, 2 lengths off the lead, I said he'll come home alone. Because I thought if he get unbalanced down into the dip, he won't have time, or if a horse was in his way, he wouldn't have time to get going. And sure enough, he was off the bridle down into the dip. You'd have to say looked kind of beaten. And the minute he got a gap and the minute he met the rising ground, it was all over in 10 strides. And it takes him a half a furlong to get motoring, and then when he gets going and uphill, you know, he really shows what he's made of.
Norman, I should imagine the Craven bonuses, they're huge. That must be important to the market.
Hugely important to get owners in, and new owners maybe. For instance, last year, we'll say Native Trail, you talk about 210. Well, he got a 125 bonus for winning his first Group 1. You know, if you were a person who maybe didn't quite have the money to have a horse in training, well, you got most of your money back. More importantly, Robert, I got 25,000 for him winning. And you know, at the time you were thinking, did you get enough money for him? When he won his Group 1, you were wondering, was it enough? But I must say, when the postman arrived with 25 grand, it made it a lot, made it a happy day. But the owner's bonus from the Craven is huge.
And the bonuses stretch across the Group 1s and all through Royal Ascot. It's lovely.
All season, it's fantastic. And you know, it's certainly new owners getting into the business need to have a proper look at it.
We're looking towards the Craven Breeze up now. You've got a draft of 4. Tell me about them. Let's start with the War Front. Tell me about this colt.
Yeah, fine big horse. I've had a lot of luck with War Front before. I had a horse, very good horse in who ended up winning the Preakness called War of Will. So I'm a huge fan. But this fella's a big horse, but is showing everything that we'd like. He's showing lots of pace for a big horse. So I'm very, very hopeful.
A Star Spangled Banner colt from an incredible family that's done the Arcuses so well.
Yeah, the Arcus family, which again, War of Will, funny enough, came from. This horse was sold at Tattersalls, Ireland, yearling sale in September, and he's done really well, really, really well. Very, very happy with him. He seems a sharp type, great moving horse. Yeah, very pleased. I'm a huge fan of Star Spangled Banner, and I haven't been able to buy him over the years. You know, there wasn't a lot of stock on the ground, but I'm very happy I have one now, that's for sure.
You bought a Camelot out of a 2-time winner, reads really well. Tell me about him. Yeah,
it's interesting. A lot of people think Camelot mile and a quarter, but you know, Luxembourg last year, if this fella was as good as him, you'd be, I'm sure Luxembourg would breeze well if you breezed him, you know. So there's a lot of class there in Camelot. He's a real strong horse, big backside in him, great mover, great walk. I have a job actually to keep weight off him, he's that strong. But again, beautiful horse, mile, and I'm sure down the line, mile and a quarter, but this is a good looking fella now.
And you went back to the well to Oasis Dream. He reads really well.
Yeah, great moving horse, all quality. Comes from a very fast family with Mecca's Angel in there and all that.
The dam's an own sister?
No own sister to Mecca's Angel, so a lot of speed. He's showing everything really nicely. I think he's a mid-April foal, and he was slightly weak to begin with. But I think he should be really liked. You know, he's a big backside and he's a big walker, and he's a good looking horse.
Norman, we're what, 3 weeks off the sale? Where are you now getting these horses ready? Are they where you want to be?
They are where I want to be. It's now is a worrying time from now to sale. So we carry on, do our usual canters. And things change a little bit. The horse might be off feed, so we back off him and picks the grass out here, things like that. But from now on, they'll get one piece of quick work each week, and about 5 days before they travel, I'll give them one real fast piece of work, 4 3/4, 2 furlongs, and just let them stretch, and then it's keep them in one piece till they get on that lorry and leave for the Craven.
Well, you've made an art of it, Norman. It's interesting, I'm so interested by it. Mags O'Toole is a second pair of eyes for you when you buy the yearlings often.
Some people might say first pair of eyes. Yeah, Mags has been a help to me since I started. She's been tremendous help. I'm terrible pedigree man, I don't read enough, and she knows pedigrees inside out, and as we know, she's a great judge of a horse. So all the way along, she's been a great help to me.
I have to ask you, Norman, Master Oates, Alderbrook, Teton Mill, where does Native Trail fit in the Proud Moments list?
It's bang up there. Well, I suppose we move on, time moves on, but this is what we do now, and it's fantastic to have had him. And when it was going on last year, we were living in a dream world really, and just hope to God he can come out and do it now. But you kind of always put yourself under pressure. But it's wonderful to have had him when you think of all the horses sold around the world, and to have one horse out of book one, and he ends up champion 2-year-old. It's fantastic.
By
yeah.
£7.
Yeah, long way. Yeah, it's amazing. You speak about the money that's spent and everything else. Listen, you need to be lucky, Robert.
Well, Norman, I do hope that in your draft for the Craven Breeze Up, you've got the goods again, and well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert.